This is Mongo Slade. So today we're going to talk about, earning opportunities. This came from a conversation that Big E had with Busted Open Radio. I'm going to read some of the transcripts from Fightful, but it seems very, very interesting. I want to talk about this. So Big E says, I want this run to feel earned. There are a lot of people who have been clamoring for me to do more for a long time. A lot of times what you'll see, and I won't name names, you'll see a talent who are called up or brought in and almost given too much too soon. Not that they don't have the ability, but as a babyface especially, I don't feel like I'm with you if you've been on the main roster 2 weeks and you already got a title shot. So I really love that. I understand what he's saying when he says a lot of other stuff. Like he gives a good example. He says, one of the best things that happened to Daniel Bryan is losing to Sheamus in 20 seconds at WrestleMania. People had enough. They said, this guy has been grinding and been one of the best in the world for all these years, and this is how you treat me? That's what caused his explosion. I don't think he got vastly better. Not saying he hasn't made steps to improve, but he was always that guy. When it feels earned and you've been through the ringer, not saying I haven't earned it with the tag team stuff, but I'm still fairly new to the singles run. I want it to be he's jumped through all the hoops and performed time and time again. I want to show week in and week out that I can do the solos backstage and solo promos and kill it, that I can do every aspect of the business as a singles competitor, and then it's earned. In the same vein, I'm not here to turn down any opportunity either. So this is great. This is legit. I love the understanding of this. And I think this is something that we, the fans, or I hate to really put it on other people because sometimes I kind of get in this mode too, where you do want a lot for people who are just being called up. You do want the big moment. You want them to get something almost immediately. And it's usually because people watch you go through NXT and they see kind of what you've done in NXT, and they kind of they think it's, you shouldn't have to start over. You should, just be able to cash in those chips like it's going to Chuck E. Cheese or something. You just, right before you leave, you cash in all your chips, you get your big world title win, you walk around with it for a while, and then the next person cashes in on their chips and they get it. That's kind of how people have started to treat in WWE in general. They started saying things like, oh, you shouldn't have to go to NXT, or you shouldn't. Like I had a conversation with somebody during Raw, during the January the 18th Raw, about Ricochet. And they was like, well, why do some people have to qualify for the Royal Rumble? And I was like, well, if you look at it in terms of story, some of these people have not been winning a lot. You talk about people who have reputations, people who have won titles. And then somebody was like, what about Otis? I was like, Otis won the Money in the Bank. For a long time, Otis was the Money in the Bank winner. And he was in a top story on SmackDown, post Royal Rumble the previous year. He kind of slid off the scale. But if you compare Otis to Ricochet hasn't done shit in over a year, So it's like, but Ricochet was good in Japan. And it's like, who the fuck cares? It has nothing to do with what he's doing today. And it's like, and it's just being in the Rumble. Neither one of them are going to win it. It's just being in the Royal Rumble. You get this attitude of this sense of entitlement. People feel entitled. And I know what Big E was trying to say. You do get people who come in and they get the big push. They get the big push, and it doesn't work out all the time. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it doesn't. But you see what happens when they do give people the big push and then it doesn't work. That's usually when they lose interest. Shinsuke Nakamura got a huge push when he first came in. He beat John Cena and Randy Orton within the first 6 months of being on SmackDown. Within 6 months of being on SmackDown, he had beaten Randy Orton and John Cena. Within the first year, he had been in a championship match at WrestleMania and won the Royal Rumble. But then they had to push him back down the card, because what else could he possibly do? Outside of getting the title, winning it, and holding it forever, what else could he possibly do? So he hit a skid and he got veered off into nowhere because there's always new people coming. There's always new people coming up. Everybody who comes up, Everybody who is, returning from a long sabbatical like Lashley or John Morrison, all those people, there's constantly people coming in. There's always going to be somebody who was, oh, he was so much better in TNA. He was so much better in Japan. He was so much better so and so and doing such and such. And people have this idea that you're supposed to take somebody and slot them in the same position they were in somewhere else. That it doesn't really feel earned because a lot of the fans don't really know you. If you were to do something like that and say, well, Ricochet should get a spot because he was in the best of Super Juniors, you say that on Raw, people are going to be like, what is that? Why didn't anybody else do it? Because the average person in the audience doesn't know what that means. They don't know what that is, and but so I understand what Big E is saying. Big E is saying like, hey, you guys, I have been watching me. This audience have been watching me. This audience have been watching me for so long. They know what I can do. They know my potential. They're ready for me to go to the next level. And because they're ready for me to go to the next level, it'll feel natural. It'll feel, it won't feel like entitlement. It'll feel like it's about time. And I do think that that's kind of how it is with Kofi. Because when there were some people, when Kofi won the title, there were some people, or the Meltzers of the world, who were saying, "Oh, it's everybody gets a turn," kind of idea. I wonder. See, I was blocked by Meltzer, so I was wondering what he had to say when Evil won the title in New Japan, because I saw a lot of people was kind of. But it was interesting, that Kofi Kingston had been on the roster 10 years. So 10 years, he finally cashed in his chips and, boom, he got his title run. It was excellent. A lot of people liked it. It was, WWE can't do nothing that's universally liked. So to say that it's mixed, it was more on the positive side, especially for the moment. Now, people may hate the run, but the road to it, the chase, the actual win of the championship, people really loved it. People were involved with that. People liked it. It was a feel-good moment. It showed people that hard work and dedication, a decade of which, can pay off. Wrestling is something where, it usually doesn't take a decade for you to finally get where you were going. Unlike maybe working 10 years in an office somewhere, you might have to work 30 years or 40 years to get somewhere. And wrestling is a decade, But usually it don't take that long. When you look at on average, and I think I've said this, but for people who are really going to be a top star in WWE, it takes 2 or 3 years. So when you say so-and-so is not doing anything or they're being buried or whatever, you have to remember that there was a lot of people who struggled their first year and a half, 2 years, some even 3 or 4 years in WWE before they won a title, or the top title, I should say. Some even before they even won a mid-card title. Think about guys like Triple H. Triple H came into WWF in 1995? And promptly did nothing, got squashed in his first WrestleMania, and really had nothing really going for him until 1998 when Shawn left. That's really when he started getting like some shine. That's 3 years. And he wasn't even in the main events yet. Okay? Steve Austin, he came in as the ringmaster. Even after winning King of the Ring and still didn't do anything, he didn't main event a pay-per-view until 1996. He didn't actually win the title until 1997. So he was in the company 2 years already. Chris Jericho, Chris Jericho talks about how miserable his first year was, as he was being ripped apart by Vince McMahon, and he was on the verge of getting fired because he didn't really know how to work the style. There was so much going on. People don't realize that when Jericho was super over, he hadn't only been on the roster for 3 years. That moment that when they faked Chris Jericho winning the title, he had only been on the roster 3 years. So when you say that somebody's being buried, they've been on TV for 6 months. They've been on TV for 4 weeks. Like when they were talking about Keith Lee. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You believe that careers are made or broken in 6 months? No, it takes a long time. Even Bill Goldberg, hell, they had him run people over for over a year before he finally got a title run in WCW. Not everybody is going to be Brock Lesnar. And Brock is the guy who got too much too fast because he ended up quitting. You know, like Brock came in 2002. He won the title 6 months into the company, and a year and a half later, he was gone. So that's the kind of mentality that I think that, they have been trying to break when it comes to people. Not everybody's going to get the same opportunities, of course. But a lot of people who are eventually made it and crossed the finish line and became a top star, it took them some time. It's going to take Big E a little bit longer. I think Big E was on the roster in 2012, maybe even 2010. I don't remember when he actually came up. But he's been on the roster a good 10 years. So, it's been a while. It will feel natural because he was already over. And I love also that he mentioned as a babyface, because that is very, very important. When you win a title as a heel, you can become entitled. You can get that entitlement as a heel and feel like you should already deserve something because of past laurels or just because of how good you are. It's a lot different when you're a babyface and you want people to buy into you and buy into you as somebody that they really like. You have to make it feel earned, and that's really the number one thing that's going on with Goldberg. A lot of people are, why do people not like Goldberg? It's like because Goldberg kind of gets slotted in the main event. He doesn't have to do the dark matches. He never really had to do that stuff. Like he did the underneath matches, but they were all 2 or 3 minutes. He didn't have to put on 15, 20-minute matches like the cruiserweights were doing and and grow from there. He didn't have to grow like Malenko or Jericho or Benoit or all those guys who spent years and years in purgatory. He spent maybe a year working underneath guys, and then over time, he's just boom, is in the main event. And it felt natural, and people bought into it, and they liked it, but it wasn't going to be long term. And what they knew, they wasn't going to be long term. That's why he wasn't the champion that long. Despite the fact that the guy was undefeated, he wasn't champion that long. Why? Because the chase was more important than the run. Once he had won the title, people were like, okay, we got the catharsis of the evil Hogan had been beaten and the undefeated man that we've all been down with won. Now it's time to do something else. So I think this is very, very important for Big E to talk about this. And it's something that people really want to think about, especially when you bring up people from Raw or SmackDown. Like a lot of people believe, Rhea Ripley's been ruined because she lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania. It's like, Rhea Ripley is 24. Whose career is made and or broken at 24? Even Randy Orton, when he won the title at 24, he made man. He barely made the WrestleMania 22 card. Barely. He really was getting suspended. So it's like when you think about those kinds of things, it does take a substantial amount of time. And Randy Orton debuted in 2002, by the way. So he debuted in 2002. He won the title in 2004. So it took about 2 years. Right? It took Edge a little bit longer because he had the little tag team run. But Edge was on the roster in 1998. The TLC stuff started happening in 99, 2000. He won the King of the Ring in 2001. They were priming you for this Edge stuff before they finally did it. Then of course he had those injuries and all the Matt Hardy stuff kind of slowed everything down. But they were priming you for a big Edge push long before it came. Kevin Owens is another one before he won the Universal title. We could go on and on about, the 2 to 3 year thing there that if you're not, it's going to be a struggle. That's the earning it. That's what Big E is talking about. Now, is it going to take Big E 2 or 3 years? I doubt it. I doubt it. He did mention, and I probably should have read this along with it, but he talked about main eventing WrestleMania 37. So he says, you know how it is. They will go through a list of part timers of the big names and big money guys who work once a year. They will go through that list, and if they can't get all those guys booked for that spot at WrestleMania, then it's okay. Who actually works here on a weekly basis and has been grinding, and now maybe we give them an opportunity. So he's even cracking a little bit, cracking some jokes about it. Like, yeah, they always want to try to give the big money guys a shot first. Let's see if they can get Brock, or if they can get Goldberg, or if they can get Rock, or somebody like that. If not, then I guess they'll call me. So it's like he's just not bitter, but just kind of having a ball with it, because he understands how it works. And I think that, more people should think about this. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Spread the good word of 3 Count Commentaries via the hashtag 3 Count Commentaries. Tell people about this channel. And I'll talk to you guys later.